Hello, welcome to Wargamer. I'm your host, Rob. And if you are a follower of Chaos, you're going to be excited about this video because it's the faction preview or the faction focus Games Workshop have just released about Slaves to Darkness. And in my personal opinion, arguably the strongest set of faction rules and even individual war scrolls that we've seen so far in Age of Sigmar. So if I was a Slaves to Darkness player, I'd be quite excited. Let's jump straight into it. Before we do, just want to remind you to leave some comments in the comments below. I love reading those comments. Hit me up with those comments. Let me know what you think about the rules or even if you just like the video. I'd love to know those things. That'd be really fun. I got a new shirt. Let me know if you want to see me in more shirts in the future. I don't know what it is that you want, so I can only find that out if you let me know in the comments. So let's get into it, shall we? I'm joined by the Twitch chat, as you can see right there. Okay, learn to read. All right, so Slaves to Darkness are a army of mainly humans, I think, but all sorts. They're basically mortals who've dedicated themselves to the dark gods. And there are 4 different dark gods, although weirdly, they have added Skaven to the Pantheon, and you cannot dedicate yourself to Skaven. Coward's choice by Games Workshop, in my opinion. Right. So they have battle traits. These are going to apply to your whole army. First, we're going to talk about those marks of chaos. You have 5 to choose from. Undivided, Khorne, Tzeentch, Nurgle, and Slaanesh. Some units will already have their mark of chaos written on them. However, the mark of chaoses that you can choose will be located on their individual war scrolls, and they'll tell you that you choose that mark of chaos when you're writing your army list. So not at the tabletop or at the start of the battle, but when you're writing your army list. So you've got to plan out what you're going to want your units to do earlier on. So if you can take a mark of chaos, and you could take Undivided, add 1 to wound rolls for the unit's combat attacks that target a hero or monster. Obviously, these are good, but they are situational. Obviously, you need there to be a hero or monster on the board. Khorne, arguably fighting in first place with Nurgle for the best one. Add 1 to the attacks characteristic of a unit's melee weapons for the rest of the turn if the unit charged this turn. That's great. That's just more damage, that's more output, that's good. If we look at Nurgles, they're the opposite side. Subtract 1 from wound rolls for a combat attacks that target the unit. Now, we've seen lots of +1 to wound, -1 to wound. Age of Sigmar 4 looks like it's shaping up to be a game of +1 to wound, -1 to wound, +1 to hit, -1 to hit, 3d6 charge, 1d6 charges, and then they strike first and strike last. They seem to have given bonuses and negatives, and there'll be some really interesting kind of rock paper scissors mechanics going on, which is really fun. But yeah, -1 to wound is quite interesting. So probably if you're taking 10 Chaos Knights, mark a Khorne. If you're taking 20 Warriors of Chaos on foot, maybe mark a Nurgle. Although you get more economy the more models you have. So if you have 20 warriors, you get more attacks than you do out of 10 knights if you go for mark a Khorne. So there's so many questions to ask here. Anyway, if you choose Tzeentch, the unit has a 4+ ward save against mortal damage inflicted by spells and manifestations. Right now, we haven't seen all the spells and manifestations available in Age of Sigmar 4. So this is either going to be like, it's kind of okay, or maybe really good for a teams format where you want to build a special list that's going to go into spellcasting armies. Or it'll become incredibly important, like we saw with Null Myriad in Age of Sigmar 3 for OCR Bone Reapers, which basically propped up the army and defeated many spellcasting armies. So it's either going to be okay or it's going to be really, really good. The last one is Slaanesh, where you add 1 to run rolls and charge rolls for the unit, which isn't that bad, to be honest. But in the right situation, I probably am always going to take +1 attack. So those are the marks of chaos. The next one is done once per turn at the end of any turn, which does mean the end of every turn. And each friendly Slaves to Darkness unit that destroyed an enemy unit this turn is a target. Friendly beasts and non-hero monsters cannot be targeted by this ability. So you have to have destroyed a unit in order to be able to do it, and it can't be a beast unit, can't be any non-hero monsters. What you do is you roll a d6, and you can re-roll the result. However, if you do roll a 1 on the second result, you're going to suffer d3 mortal damage. Now, the re-roll is really, 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 really good because 3 of these are really powerful, and the fact that you can re-roll is great. And the number 6 is if you roll a 6 is pick any other effect. So Really good, because you're probably going to want to go for 4 and 5 all the time. So if you roll a 1, it's snubbed by the gods. If you roll it another 1, it's going to be D3 mortal damage. If you roll a 2, then you heal 3 to the target, which isn't bad, especially on large units with big wound pools, looking at you, Arcana, as an example. Number 3 is Unnatural Grace. You add 1 to hit rolls for the target's combat attacks for the rest of the battle. There's obviously fine. There is all-out attack if you need it, and you're not going to be mad that you've got +1 to hit forever, but there's lots of ways to get +1 to hit in the game, so you're not that interested. What you are interested in is Lurid Haze, where the target has a ward of 6+ for the rest of the battle. If they've already got a 6-up ward save, then it becomes a 5-up ward save, and that is crazy, because that's allegiance abilities for some units. That's some units have baked-in War Scroll costs for that. That's really nice. And the last one, Slaughter's Might, is you add 1 to the Ren's characteristic that targets melee weapons for the rest of the battle. And it does say that the same effect can be applied multiple times. So that does mean you can get like turn 1 +1 Rend on maybe already existing +1 on Rend 1 weapons. So those weapons already Rend 2. For instance, Chaos Knights and Warriors of Chaos already have Rend 1 on their War Scroll. So now from turn 1, they could be, the end of turn 1, they could be Rend 2. They have to have destroyed a unit, but we'll see. Anyway, so a pretty good and fun set of allegiance abilities. Theme your army the way you want it with Marks of Chaos. Roll for boons from the Eye of the Gods. Feels pretty thematic. The next one is the battle formations in Age of Sigmar 4. Each army will have 4 battle formations to play with. The one that they featured is called the God's Wrath Warband, and once per turn for the army, at the end of your turn, specifically only the end of your turn, so not every turn, you could do the Ironclad Onslaught, where you pick an objective that's contested by any friendly units to be the target, place a Defile token on the target objective, then roll a D3 for every enemy unit contesting that objective that has a Defile token. On a 2+, you inflict that many mortal damage. So that's pretty interesting. Now, you're obviously going to be able to, in total, add 5 Defile tokens because it's done the end of your turn. However, if there's an objective in the middle of the board, you go first, run forward, put a Defile token on. It looks like there is no mechanics for removing a Defile token, so therefore your opponent, if they're trying to contest that objective, is just consistently taking D3 mortal damage, which is just going to continually happen all the time, which is really nice, in my personal opinion. There will be more sub-factions. It does say that there's going to be a Mortal Dark Oath one, some units fighting under a Demon Prince and stuff, but next up, we're going to look at Arcana and Incantations, and I've talked about this in How to Build an Age of Sigmar 4 army list, but you choose a spell law. All the wizards in your army know all those spells from a spell law. If they have the unlimited keyword, then you can cast the same spell in multiple times in a turn. The spell that they featured is Demonic Speed. It's cast on a 7. You pick a friendly Slaves to Darkness wizard to cast this spell. You pick a visible friendly Slaves to Darkness unit, wholly within 12, and then if you cast it, for the rest of the turn, you can add 1 to the number of dice rolled when making charge rolls for the target to a maximum of 3. When I say that this is bananas, you're going to be like, Rob, what are you talking about? We already know prosecutors charge 3d6. We already know Kragnos gives away 3d6. You're like, okay, what's interesting about Kragnos is Kragnos' ability to charge 3d6 is baked into the points cost of what Kragnos is. What this does is it gives you the 3d6 charge utility on any unit that you wish to build. So if, for instance, Kragnos ends up being overcosted, you probably won't bring him along because he costs too many points. Whereas if you've got 6 Varangard, 10 Chosen, 10 Chaos Knights, and they're all slightly more efficient or effective than the other one, depending on the buffs that you can give them, you can give whichever one ends up being the best that in your mind, you can give them a 3d6 charge. That becomes crazy good, because it means that you are not reliant on the points effectiveness of a unit. You can choose the most points effective unit and make it absolutely yeet itself up the board, okay? And that's insane, especially when we take into account that you can cast this spell on your opponent's turn, and you can also countercharge in your opponent's turn. So if you want Archeon to countercharge in your opponent's turn with 3d6, then you absolutely can. And it's really, really nice. So it's a great spell. And if I was a Slaves to Darkness player, I'd be stoked about this. Next up, they show unit focus, and I'm going to say, hands down, this is the best war scroll we've seen in Age of Sigmar 4 so far. Belakor, the Dark Master. It's got 14 health, 4-up saves, moves 14 inches, which is very fast, and it's got a control value of 10, which normally most monsters have had a control value of 5. So already very good. Has a 6-up ward save built in and can obviously be turned into a 5-up ward save if you roll in the Eye of the Gods, which is nice. Is a level 2 wizard, which is great. Is unique, is a war master, is a hero, and can fly. Okay, it's got the undivided keyword as well, so you're not going to be able to give them a mark. In combat, it's got 8 attacks at damage 2 with the Blade of Shadows, which could be 16 damage. And then the Fell Claw and Spear is another 2 attacks that do 2 damage, but on the charge goes up to damage 3 for potentially another 6 damage. So that's quite a lot of damage. It's not tons, it's not terrible. But what's really good is this unit is much more survivable with its 4-up save because you cannot add negatives or positives to its save thanks to the Shadow Form passive. So any rend that you have isn't going to affect that 4-up armor save, so it's going to be pretty good. Now, it's once per turn in the enemy combat phase, so not in your combat phase. Rampage is wicked. Pick this unit and up to 2 friendly Slaves to Darkness units within this unit's combat range to be the targets. Roll a dice for each target. On a 4+, that target has strike first for the rest of the turn. So now if I want to, I can just have it so I countercharge 3d6 with a unit, and as long as Belakor is nearby, that unit's going to have strike first. Now, I know it's on a 4-up, but you've got 3 choices for strike first. If you rolled all 3 4-ups, you could have Belakor, 10 Chosen, 6 Therodons, all striking before your opponent strikes. That's wild. That's wild. And it's done in your opponent's turn, so they charge you. You're going to get to strike before them. Very, very effective. All right, the next thing we're going to look at is the Dark Master ability, which now we're just heaping glory. We're heaping glory on top of more glory, in my opinion. The Dark Master ability is done in the enemy hero phase once per battle. Now, this is very similar to how it worked in Age of Sigmar 3, although actually maybe even better, because everything in Age of Sigmar is a passive. Not a passive, sorry. Everything in Age of Sigmar 4 is an ability, sorry. Okay, with the exception of passives, which are abilities, but you don't select passives. It says right here out of the core rules. Abilities that have the passive timing are called passive abilities. Passive abilities are not declared, okay? And that's an important element, okay? So everything else in Age of Sigmar that's not a passive is an ability. Moving is an ability, charging is an ability, piling is an ability, attacking is an ability, shooting is an ability. So the Dark Master ability that's done once per battle lets you pick a visible enemy unit anywhere on the board until the start of your next turn, which can be a massive amount of time. Yeah. Each time the target is picked to use an ability, you roll a dice as a reaction. On a 3+, that ability has no effect. Now, obviously, this works even better if your opponent is building up for a double turn. So you do this in the enemy hero phase, which means they're going to be able to cast all of their spells, because the way it works is they do all of their stuff in the hero phase, then you do this in the hero phase, so you go second in the enemy hero phase. So they're going to be able to cast all their spells, but then they're not going to be able to, they're going to have to roll a 3-up they're going to have to roll, better than a 1 or 2 to be able to move and a bunch of other stuff. So this is crazy. You can just shut down a massive enemy unit, which is good. And if they're able to move, then charge, and then they somehow pass the ability to fight, you can roll a 4-up thanks to the Rampage and still strike before them. And finally, the Enfeeble Foe. Which is a spell unique to Belakor. It's cast on a 6. It's got an 18-inch range. You choose an enemy unit within 18 inches. Till the start of your next turn, subtract 1 from hit rolls for the target's combat attacks, and the target's combat attacks cannot score critical hits. You treat them as regular instead. So on the weapon abilities line, it does say that this weapon is, let's say, crit mortals. So just turning that off is crazy. Doing it 18 inches is crazy. Casting it in your opponent's turn is crazy. Like making it so that you cast it your opponent's turn, then they charge you, and then a 4-up you strike before them is like just Belakor the Cuck Master is what they should call it, because absolutely wild stuff. So incredible unit. Just go get one. I mean, if it's at 900 points, don't, but you know what I mean. Right, next up, Demon Prince. Has got 10 health with a 3-up armor save and starts out with a 6-up ward save. Obviously, you can improve that to a 5-up ward save. You can give it one of the 5 different marks of chaos. And then you can choose whether or not you're going to have wings or a trophy rack. If you do end up having wings, the unit moves 10 inches. If you have the trophy rack, you get a passive where your Hellforged weapons also have anti-hero +1 rend. So if you fight any heroes, you get +1 rend on top of your already existing rend 1. So that's rend 2. Roll on the Eye of the Gods, could get rend 3. Hellforged weapons, pretty spicy. 6 attacks, 3s and 3s, rend 1. Damage 3, and has also got crit mortals, so you could basically spike a ton of crit mortals into your opponent, which is really good. Is a little bit slow at move 8, but control value 5. Most units have to be a monster to get control value 5, so that's pretty nice. And then finally, they have an ability called Ruinous Favor, where you pick a friendly, non-unique unit wholly within 12 inches. So that can't be a unit like Arcana, but could be like 6 Varangard, of this unit that shares a Mark of Chaos keyword with this unit to be the target. Roll a dice on a 3+. The target can immediately use the Eye of the Gods ability as if it were the end of the turn, and they have destroyed an enemy unit this turn. So this is done in your hero phase. So this means in your hero phase, you pick an enemy unit. So this is turn 1. I roll on the chart. Cool, I've got an additional +1 rend on my unit. I've given them marker corn, so they got +1 attack. Now I'm going to cast a spell on them so they can 3d6 charge. And then I'm just going to run them forward. At the end of that, they're going to kill a unit. Then at the end of that turn, I'm going to roll on the Eye of the Gods again, which is pretty good. So very cool, in my opinion. Next up, we're going to look at Chaos Knights. That's everything to do with the Demon Prince. Whether or not that scales, it's going to be more effective to take the Demon Prince and do the rolls. Whether or not you can see the purpose of the Demon Prince for rolling the Eye of the Gods. Is it enough value, in your opinion? You have to work it out and see, but it's very, very cool. Next up, the Chaos Knights. Chaos Knights come as a unit of 5, and they have got an absolutely insane health value of 4. So it's going to be 20 health from a unit of 5 with a 3-up armor save. You can obviously reinforce them to a unit of 10. So that's going to be 40 health on a 3-up armor save. They move 10 inches. They've got a control value of 1. Their Cursed Lance weapon profile is 3 attacks, 3s and 3s, rend 1, damage 1. On the charge, they go up to damage 2. And they have the Impaling Charge, where you add 1 to the Rend's characteristic of its Cursed Lances. So they'll go to rend 2. This is where it gets wild, in my opinion. Give these guys the Mark of Corn. They are going to be 4 attacks each on the charge, which you want to charge because you want +1 damage. If, for instance, you have a Demon Prince nearby and you'll be able to give them additional rend, which is pretty nice, and if you're playing the seasonal rules, which I've done a video on, you can go check them out. The seasonal rules, where you can potentially give these guys a couple of different options, but mainly +1 to hit, +1 to wound, so they're going to be 2s and 2s, or you make it so they can have +1 rend against a specific unit type. Let's pick monsters right now. So +1, because you do that at the beginning of the battle. I see I'm playing Gargants. I'm like, okay, no problem. +1 rend against Gargants, please. Then I roll rend on the Eye of the Gods. A unit of 10 Chaos Knights are going to have 40 attacks, hitting on 3s. Let's give them all out attacks. So hitting on 2s, winning on 3s. Rend 4, damage 2. 41 attacks. Let's add the champion in. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Oh, and don't worry, they'll make the charge because they're going to charge on 3d6. Okay? Then counter-charging your opponent's turn. It's insane. Okay? That's all I'm going to say. Lastly, we're going to look at Dark... Also, they look sick. I love Chaos Knights. They look great. And then finally, we've got Dark Oath Marauders. They're a unit of 10. Great models. Each one's got 1 health, so 10 health across the unit with a 5-up armor save and no ward save, obviously. They have control value of 1 each, and they only move 5 inches. They have got 2 attacks each, hit on a 4, win on a 3, no rend, damage 1, but they can gain rend, and I'm so happy to see the rules that they had in Age of Sigmar 3 maintained in Age of Sigmar 4, where they're once per battle in any charge phase. If they roll an 8 or more, you're going to add 1 to the rend characteristic of this unit's weapons for the rest of the battle, which is super nice in my personal opinion. I absolutely love that. They already start out with the undivided keyword, so they're going to get +1 to wound against heroes and monsters. So the fact that you can't adapt them and give them Mark of Corn or stuff, I think some people are going to be a little bit sad about, but we'll see. They hit on 4s, they win on 3s, so -1 to hit's going to be really tough against them. They also have a passive called Glorious Death. While this unit is wholly within 12 inches of any friendly Dark Oath heroes, each time a model in this unit is slain by a combat attack that model was in combat with, the attacking unit roll a dice on a 5-up, you inflict 1 mortal damage on the attacking unit after the fight ability has been resolved. Now, I don't think it's going to be too difficult to kill this unit. 20 Marauders is still going to just be 20 health on a 5-up save, which is the same as 5 Chaos Knights on a 3-up armor save. But it really depends what you're fighting against, and we'll have to see if they get a load of other buffs from the different ways that you can play this unit in the army, which is fun. Anyway, in my personal opinion, this is looking very strong because they have a bunch of different utility pieces that we've seen. The ability to absolutely like just cuck an enemy with Belakor has been so effective in Age of Sigmar 3, and it's going to continue, I think, to be effective in Age of Sigmar 4. I'm quite scared by that ability, in my personal opinion. And similarly, Chaos Knights look really, really nice. Demon Prince brings some utility. 3d6 charge is good. If I was a Slaves to Darkness player, I'd be feeling absolutely stoked right now. We don't even know what the rest of the book. We've got Arcana, we've got Eternus, you got loads of other units. Chosen, what are they going to do? I'm praying for Theridons. If Knights have that sort of output, I have no idea what we're going to see from Theridons, which I'm excited about. So anyway, thanks for watching this video. Please do leave me comments, like and subscribe, all that other stuff. And thank you to everyone on the Wargamer Patreon, which is linked to our Discord, where we have this really active community talking about the rules and everything that's happening. So thanks very much for watching. I'll see you guys soon. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.